Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I like. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of Castle, the latest episode of Blindspot, as well as the latest episode of Person of Interest. Starting off with the series finale of Castle, I've got a lot to say about that, but a lot of that I'll save to the end. Let's just talk about the episode in general first. And first, I'll start off with the fact is, okay, the episode is them dealing with Lockset. They've got this whole plan set up in motion and everything. They're going to set them up. It's good. It's first of all, also, this is probably like one of the least jokey episodes. Like there was some stuff here and there, but even because it's like the most like I feel like, at least in my opinion. I mean, I think at this point I've seen every episode of Castle, even ones that, because even during the original run, because like I don't think there's ever been an episode of Castle I've missed ever since I started watching the show. So to me, it was the most serious. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not thinking about one, but to me, this is like the most serious episode. There was some like kind of jokes here and there, but I guess with the situation being what it is, it had to be like dead serious. But essentially, they ended up showing up. I mean, like they ended up setting up this whole thing. They think, because we end up finding out there's a victim in this episode who got burned at the beginning. I was like, we see somebody in a trunk being in the car being set on fire. In the moment, I was like, that's Caleb, isn't it? And it's like the whole thing's a setup. And like Espo is calling Beckett. I'm like, please answer the phone, Beckett. To know this is a setup. Find out Caleb. I was like, yes, but too late. The setup is already set in motion. And who shows up to help them? Freaking what's his name, Mason from the Greatest Detective Society, which I thought was pretty amazing because I was like, I brought it up earlier when that episode aired. I was like, oh yeah, come to find out. I was like, I was like, maybe we'll get to see them in some shape or form again. Just kind of wasn't expected it to be in this regard. Side note, props to Haley because this is our first time seeing Haley kind of. I mean, we've seen bits and pieces of her, like her MI6 training, like put to use, but like she was knocking dudes out, pow, pow, pow. I was like, wow, go Haley. But yeah. Now Lockset knows it was a setup, so Lockset is coming after them full force. Castle's like, I need you to look. Like he had said this to Haley before they did what they did. And he was like, I need you. He was like, I need you to go. Like if anything happens to me, he's like, I'll look after Alexis and Martha. He's like, thank you. And it's just like, oh, that's much love and respect, And then when there's each one kind of got separated. Beckett went after Vikram, and Castle went to, meet up with Haley with his mom and Alexis. Vikram, because he didn't know whether Beckett was okay or not, so he went ahead and he kind of led Esposito and Ryan in on a little bit about everything. And then Beckett shows up, you shouldn't have told him. They're like, no, you should have. It's like, we're good friends. You should have told us what was going down, Beckett. Yeah, because, I mean, they've been kept in the dark for so long. I mean, and even Castle filled Alexis and Martha in because Haley was like, this is, it's the type of thing. It's like not my place to tell them what's going on. So that happened. And they were finally in on it. And basically, Castle and Beckett made promises to each other. Okay, we'll stay in our respective places. I'll stay here at the PI office, you stay in a precinct, because it's like Lockset's not going to do anything against her in a precinct full of cops. I mean, he does some stuff, but that draw way too much attention. So, I love the fact is we had Esposito and Ryan kind of telling her to like stay back, stay in the office, like because Ryan's like, you promised Castle you stay, but she's like, I'm not gonna let you guys sacrifice yourselves for me. It's like I'm gonna put myself out there too. And as Esposito was saying, like it's better you stay. And then Beckett's kind of like, he does realize I'm the captain, right? And Ryan's like, yeah, but if you want to fire us, go right ahead, but just leave this to us. It's like that's so beautiful. Side note, the whole situation with the house that they went to track down, we ended up finding out later on the guy's name Mr. Flynn, but I was surprised. I was actually scared because I was like, they're going to find a bomb in there. I felt like the house was going to explode. They're going to get out, but that's what I was kind of expecting. And then it exploded. I was like, oh, whew. I guess that's the pessimist in me that was kind of expecting the worst. But then it really got me when we saw that guy, when we saw Flynn, because Castle left and got in a taxi. And it was Flynn as driver. I was like, crap. Had Castle strapped to a table, was going to inject some stuff into him, and it turns out to be like a truth serum essentially. And he's asking him all these questions specifically about Beckett, like how did things between him and Beckett happen? It's kind of like, why do you go so far for Beckett? It's kind of like, I love her. He's like, what do you love about her? She's smart. She challenges me she's just a good person in general. So it's just like all the type of things that make you go, oh, that'd be so much. That's so sweet and adorable. It just sucks that it has to be under these circumstances that we hear all that. But then he's you know. And then he's basically like, okay, getting all this information out, you're injecting him with the true serum because they want to find out who else knows about Locksat so he can find out who he has to kill. And then we get the big reveal that Locksat is freaking Mason. I did not see that coming. I figured it was going to be someone we knew. I was like, someone's going to walk in. It's going to be someone we've known from the series. It's like, no, someone we literally met this season. It's like, I just can't help it. I was just like, Mason, Castle came across you. I wasn't expecting that. It never crossed my mind. I was like, even Mason was a potential, I guess because of that whole detective society aspect, it's greatest detective society. I just didn't really, it didn't even cross my mind. But even Castle brought it up. He's like, yo, what's up with that? It's like, oh no, it's kind of a side project. Which I feel so bad for everyone because, obviously with everything said and done, he gets arrested and it becomes public news. I feel bad for everyone that's a part of the greatest detective society. They're like, we were working with a freaking CIA madman. He killed a lot of people, did a lot of shady business. Especially, I can't remember her character's name. I don't remember her by the actress, but the character Summer Glau, she's the one that was in competition with Castle, trying so hard to get that position on the greatest detective side. So it must suck to be like, after all that work and working so hard and Castle giving her that opportunity, and it's like, oh crap, this guy we've been working for is an asshole. He's this in a sense monster. It just really took me by surprise because it makes it even more interesting because the fact is him and Castle met face to face meeting. Back when him and Castle met, he knew exactly who Castle was, so he was probably waiting for Castle to go back home, figure stuff out to see exactly where what his position is on it, like how much does him and Kate really know, are they still investigating it and whatnot. Because I get the feeling like he probably knew a lot more of what they were doing. I mean, granted, he kind of kept more probably in the greatest detective society, so he probably wasn't keeping eyes on them. Well, he probably stayed there, but still had men keeping their eyes on Castle and Haley when they were there in L.A. I mean, and Alexis too. I don't know. But it ended up being like, so who else knows? And basically because of the serum, Castle didn't tell him, and it broke my heart because you see Castle crying because he's trying so hard to fight back, not to say anything. And it's just like, oh, Castle. And because if anything happens to everyone else, he's going to blame himself for it. So, but luckily Ryan and Esposito got there in time. Granted, they didn't even know Castle was kidnapped. They were just tracking home dude down, Flynn. And I love the fact is that that CIA guy was like, no, you can't really search this building even if you're NYPD. This is a place basically owned by the CIA. So Esposito reached over, like kind of threw him on the ground, and I was like, wow, that was pretty badass of you. Ended up getting into Castle just in time. He was like, okay, let me just do this one. And just when he was reaching, Castle's like, Esposito, and Esposito shot his hand. I was like, yeah. And then Castle hooked him up to that serum machine so he could find Beckett, get to her before things got out of hand, before Mason ended up killing her. But Beckett ended up figuring it out ahead of time. I was like, it makes me wonder at what point did she figure out that he was Locksat. It wasn't really discussed, but it's like, it makes you wonder. She is very smart. He's like, I did worry that you were, this wouldn't work on you because you are too smart. It's like, I was thinking, like, at what point did she figure out that he was Locksat? Was it before she got in the car, or was it when she got in the car? Just probably the way, maybe some of the questions he was asking, the way he was acting, maybe that's when she figured it out, or maybe she pieced things together when she went off to meet him, but nevertheless. But he had that little magnet set up, and then you hear her, like, cause he's like, oh yeah, your husband's dead. Sorry, your husband's already dead. He's injured. Beckett's like, you're lying. It's like, don't believe him. I'm like, don't believe him, Beckett. He's alive and he's coming to the rescue, and he shows up. I'm like, yeah. But then the gun gets sucked up out of him. I'm like, no. And then she takes, locks it down. I'm like, oh, thank God. I honestly thought that situation was going to end a lot differently. I thought it was going to end with him getting killed. But honestly, got taken down pretty interestingly, there was that little situation that basically when Castle like basically kind of went down. I would assume it's kind of like an elevator shaft that was behind the wall of the room he was in. That Ryan Esposito as well as the rest of the team of those cops were fighting off. I guess who were CIA guys or something like that. Thought that gunfight was going to end badly, but apparently ended fine because everyone was okay at the end of it. But it had it's kind of like, okay, everything's happy. Yeah, everything's been resolved. And then quickly we end with like Beckett and Castle in the house. And I'm like, okay, something's not right. The way this scene is set up is like something's about to happen. I thought Beckett was going to be in the room and getting shot or something like that. I was like, there's no way this is. And then all of a sudden, Castle's asking these questions and then he gets shot. I'm like, what? What? Turns out freaking Caleb's alive. So either was Caleb actually Lockset and Lockset Mason wasn't Lockset, or was it just Caleb was kind of like a contingency plan alongside Lockset, Mason? I don't know I don't know. And Mason, I mean, basically, Caleb pointed the gun down, was about to kill him. Beckett shows up and shoots him, but at the same time, she gets shot. It was such a beautiful thing that they like crawl toward each other, and we kind of get like kind of like a transition, like sliding to like empty rooms. Fast forward to 7 years, we see them with kids, happy, and just it's such a beautiful and adorable thing. And I will go ahead and state this: Castle and Beckett are my favorite couple. I think in probably anything, they are my favorite couple because to me, Nathan Fillion and Stanikotic have such good chemistry. They make such a good team, and it's just like I'd waited so long for them to finally just like all that tension to get cut through, and just for them to finally hook up. I mean, granted, it took like when did they officially hook up? At the end of season 4, so it took them about at that time it was like 3 to 4 years to finally cut through everything to be together. But still, nevertheless. But overall, I'll say a very nice series finale. Now I'm going to spend the rest of this time. I just kind of want to get out the way. Overall, like I said, I like the episode. I'll have my personal gripes with the episode, and then I'll gripe about everything in general. Gripes with it, obviously, that ending. Caleb shooting them like that, and then it just cutting to the 7 years. Obviously, you can obviously tell that was probably most likely. If it wasn't, I'd be astonished. Obviously, that was like a last minute thing because last week it said, oh, this would be the season finale, not series finale. I didn't even find out till yesterday when I was looking through the guide because I was setting recordings for everything like Person of Interest and Blindspot. I was setting recordings for those so I could watch the series finale for Castle, season finale for Castle. Turns out it's like, oh, series finale. I'm like, it's like ABC didn't renew it for another season. I ended up watching something like earlier, like late last night. They ended up confirming that. And it's just like, oh, they suck so much for that. Because I already knew ahead of time, because like, I think I brought this up in something else, but basically Castle was one of like 8 shows that I read an article about that basically these 8 shows might possibly get canceled just because they're not getting the viewership they need. It's like basically not enough people are watching it. Rating, like, what's the review wise, they still get pretty good ratings and stuff like that, but it's just not. Apparently, because I didn't even notice, apparently the show's always brought in pretty good ratings for ABC, but it's just because not enough people were watching. Because I kind of read something that's basically like, oh, its audience is getting older, so less people are watching it, I guess. Whatever the case may be, so they ended up canceling it, which just breaks my heart because I freaking adore this show. I love it and I adore it so, so much. I didn't watch the show from the very beginning. I didn't start watching the show until about 2011. So that was roughly, when was it? Maybe like I forgot when exactly, but it was because I literally binged on the first 3 seasons. Because by the time I started watching it, it was like roughly around the beginnings of the 4th season. So I ended up binging on like the first 3 seasons, and I just kept knocking episodes back. I'm like, I love this show, and just immediately fell in love with all the characters, and it's just all around. Love this show, and like I said, Beckett and Castle are 2 of my all-time favorite couple. I believe they always will be. They just, that chemistry is unreal and amazing, and they have like such a great love story. But my thing is the whole situation with getting back to it. It's like the way that ending was added on, it's like they had probably a week because ABC was probably sitting on it the entire time. Like, okay, we still haven't 100% decided if we're going to bring it back or not, and we're not going to. Because last Monday it said for the previous like season finale, they say series finale. So they probably had like maybe a week to just like, I don't even, it makes you wonder, did they change anything? It's like certain things that make you wonder, like, or certain things change. Like, for instance, Mason being Locksat. Could that have just been because that wasn't the original goal? Maybe it really was, or maybe it wasn't. I don't know how much of this episode was actually changed prior to them finding out, like, okay, this is the series finale. Was it just that little bit, like the last 30 seconds to a minute with the whole, like, 7 years later thing? Was that the only thing that was changed, or was there other stuff too? I don't know. Like, to me, if in my perfect world, this show would have gotten another season. At the very least, one more season. I mean, ABC didn't even have to go full season. They could have done what a lot of shows do. Could have done what, like, The Mentalist did, which, granted, I still have to go back and finish. I watched, like, the first 3 episodes, but then I got so caught up and behind on, I still have to go back on. But, like, the last season, The Mentalist was only, like, 10 or 13 episodes. And then, because, you bring it back for a much smaller season, because usually the Mentalist seasons are like 20 some episodes. It's like literally do the same thing for Castle, bring it back for like one more season, maybe like get you anywhere between, like, because even the first season of Castle was only like 10 episodes. You could easily like repeat that, but I guess, like I said, because it's so many lower views, they're like, I guess in their mind, it's like, we're not making enough money off of it to really profit from putting all this money towards a show that no one's watching, which sucks. I hate that that's how it works. I know, like, that's how it's always worked, but it's just like, I hate that that's how it does work. I do, in all honesty, I wish TNT would pick it up. I don't know if TNT in itself has any connection to ABC in general. Like, 'cause, there's certain channels, like overhead channels, like NBC and CBS, that actually have other channels connected to them. Like, I'm pretty sure NBC and USA, for example, are connected. I think they're also connected. That's connected to Sci-Fi too. Maybe, don't quote me on that. So, example like that. So maybe ABC and TNT are connected like that. But nevertheless, TNT airs Castle. They have some rights to it then, because it syndicates up there. So they could easily pick it up. I want one more season, because, I mean, with the way it ended, it's like, well, where would you go? Either you kind of do like a small season where we kind of get to see where everyone is and see what their lives are like now that you got a big family, or we kind of do like little bits and pieces episodes where we get like, oh, this is in between those 7 years, this is the stuff Castle and Beckett went through, some dangerous cases and dangerous people. I don't know. It's just, it's a sad situation and stuff like this. It's just like, it leaves you wanting more. And it's because I know this was like such a sudden thing. They didn't have a chance to remedy it, like this situation. Let's take like another more recent show to end it, like Bitten. I think Bitten literally had a little bit more time to, like, certain shows that, they find out ahead of time, okay, we're not coming back, so they like have little time. Like, I don't know in Bitten's situation. I haven't looked into it, but I feel like with the way Bitten ended, like, that obviously wasn't the original ending they had in mind. Not, like I said, I'm not convinced they went into that knowing it was going to be their final season. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But it's like, because it was such a last minute decision, it didn't give Castle, like the people behind Castle, the chance to really just go like, hey, here's some, like, this is obviously going to be like, we're closing in. I was like, oh, we're being canceled. So we've got 4 episodes left in the season. We're going to make a finale. Maybe it'd be like a 2-hour finale. Maybe not. I don't know. Because I feel like I feel like, because a lot of stuff happened really, really, really fast in this episode. So, there were, so that's another reason why I feel like maybe there was some extra stuff added or subtracted from the episode, not just what was kind of added at the end. I don't, like I said, most series finales I'm never really, like, I'm satisfied with series finale, but it's like, it's a nice conclusion. I will give it that, but it's obvious you can tell there was much more planned, because the whole Beckett and Castle being shot thing, that was going to lead into something else. That was going to be the season. I'm guarantee you that was going to be the season finale, and then it was going to pick up from there in the next season. Like, oh, did Beckett and Castle survive? What's the aftermath of everything? I think them killing, what's his face? Caleb. Maybe not even been a plan. They just killed him then. but it's like probably we were going to make it so that like when it was all said and done in the next season, you find out Caleb actually got away or something like that, and he'd be kind of the main antagonist. So just in general, I'm dissatisfied. I enjoy the show. I don't really hold anything against creators of Castle, and I can't really fault ABC, which I kind of do. Like, I will admit I hold some prejudice towards them because I feel like it's kind of your fault the situation ended the way it did, because it's like, why would you do that? But nevertheless, it's just that's just how things are. Like, not every show, gets their chance to be like, oh, we're definitely going out with a bang. It's just like some shows never get that chance, but it's like I wish at least Castle had that opportunity. Because I feel like given enough time, they could have done even more with that finale, made it even more spectacular. Because it's like, I want to know what happened. I'm glad we find out a little bit about Castle and Beckett. We don't get to figure out everything. See, it would have been nice. You even showed like a flash, like a little bit of a flash to show you like where everyone is, where Lainey is, where Esposito and Ryan is. Ryan and his family. Martha, Alexis, Vikram, because apparently now he's probably going to stay there and start working at the precinct full time, because he was going to leave to go have a normal life, but it seems like he's staying around now. Haley, I would have loved, getting an opportunity to learn a little more about Haley. I mean, granted, we got that this season, which I was kind of surprised. They introduced the character, and then we found out a little bit more about her MI6 past, especially when kind of her partner reappeared a couple episodes back. So that situation, but it's just like, it's just in general, I wanted more. And it upsets me. And it is because I love the show. Like, I legitimately do. It is a funny, intriguing show. I love the mystery. I love the comedy. And like I said, I'll say it again and I'll say it forever. The romance. I love Castle and Beckett, the greatest couple of our generation. In my opinion, you can 100% disagree, but it's just, I just had to go on this little rant because it's just like, literally that's all I could think about when the episode ended. I was like, hyperventilating. I was so infuriated because of the whole situation. It's just not right. I mean, it just sucks. But you know what? Nevertheless, I wish everyone in Castle a bright future. I hope everyone is able to move on. Plenty of work comes people's way, whether it be writers, producers, directors, the creators, the actors themselves, just everyone. I hope, they end up, immediately finding new work. And I wish them all plenty of success in the future, even bigger and better things. Because I hope in honestly, in some shape or form, I want to see more Nathan Fillion and Stanakotic and something else. I just kind of had to get that all off my chest. It's just like, I don't know, maybe I'll do something a little more with that. Like, I don't know, do something connected to Castle. I haven't really got anything clear in mind, but maybe I'll do something like that at some point. It's just because I do legitimately love the show, and I'm just so saddened that it ended, and especially that way because it seems like it was such a rushed thing. I feel like if they really were going to cancel, I feel like they could have at least been like, okay, we're going to give Castle like a 2 or 3 week break, give the creators and the cast and everybody time to come back, quickly film, get the writers, everyone together, write, film, and just put out like a 2-hour thing, or just like a complete, But like I said, I don't know how much was changed. Like whether that was the original. Obviously, I don't think that was the original episode, because obviously thing at the end. But it's like I don't know how much of this episode was part of the original episode that they had planned. So, but that's just, like I said, all the stuff I don't want to get off my chest. And now finally, after all that, moving on to this week's episode of Blindspot, which this episode focused on 2 major things. One, the Mayfair situation, and the other side of it was a case. Essentially, with Mayfair being in the situation she was in, she was actually in lockup, but she's been put on house arrest now. And basically, the team wants to try and clear her name. We got Tasha finally telling everything to Reed finally telling everything to Tasha. Essentially, they don't know who to trust. They're like, the fact is Mayfair got taken out like that means that, whoever is behind all this isn't just like a single person. It's probably an organization. So there's no telling who we can trust. So But it's like, I thought it was kind of nice that it finally came out. And it seems like Reed doesn't hold anything against her. It's like, you were kind of in a compromised position. And I don't blame Tasha neither, especially because she had that prosecutor dude saying all this stuff, pointing all this stuff out, like all these circumstances stuff that came back to, the stuff that was meant to lead people towards Mayfair when it's all said and done. I'm completely jumping over the beginning where we had Jane completely crying. She's like, why? Like, she like super upset about the whole thing because it's like, you're setting Mayfair up, and then Sophia, her girlfriend, wife, whatever. Yes, I finally know her name. I made sure to take note of it this week. Basically, she recited essentially what Jane originally told her when they first met. So it wasn't just like a more recent thing. I was thinking like Sophia became a part of this back when she ran away, and she came, during her time when she ran away. And basically she was like, oh, they tracked me down and blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, that was when they got you. It's like, no, back when she quote unquote committed suicide, that's when they got her, I think, as far back as then. I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of what it makes it seem like. Back when she faked her death is when they originally got her to join them. And basically recited everything that Jane had said to her back then. And it's just like, you see it kind of hit Jane a little bit too, because she realizing like that she's the one that pretty much helped orchestrate this whole situation, because she's the one that got Sophia to turn against Mayfair because this whole daylight situation. But like, maybe you can work with us and be able to retain some of your soul, retain some shape or form of your soul, after all this kind of evil you've done. Because, daylight, daylight itself is something Kurt wanted to be like, yeah, let's tell people about daylight. That way we can help, because everyone's not looking at the full puzzle. Everyone's only looking at pieces of it because there's pieces missing, like specifically daylight. If you tell people about daylight, it'll open up a lot more information and be like able to help prove your innocence. But Mayfair doesn't want to do that because there's a lot of bad people that, they illegally arrested and contained because of daylight. It's like over 100 cases. And basically she's like, I don't want all that to be null and void just to prove my innocence. We'll just have to find another way. But Mayfair, being the way she isn't going to sit idly by. She ends up, I did like what she did. She had that set of keys, which is like, did you think of a situation like this coming up? It's like, how do you prepare for something like that and have a key molded to, like, she has a bunch of keys. I guess really when it comes down to it, maybe she had, like, maybe those set of keys were for something else and just had to find the right type of key to fit it. Or maybe all the, I don't know. I can't explain why she'd have all those multitude of keys like that. Like, what I was saying is maybe they're keys for other things, but she just had to find one that fit the lock. But it's like, even if the key fits the lock, there's no guarantee it shouldn't even turn like that because it's not the exact key, because, keys aren't exact duplicates. Like I said, not unless she had it for completely different reasons. I don't know. I did like the fact is it went off and she's like, okay, you can come by tomorrow. I think I'll be home. And the person was not taking it. She's like, it was a joke. So she basically went off in this episode kind of trying to handle the situation herself, trying to prove her own innocence, tracking down the guy. The lady she met at the bar, realizing like, oh, that whole thing was a setup. Basically, she was just essentially trying to track down her ex because she knows her ex helped set her up. She ends up getting Reed and Tasha's help too. And, Tasha's like, please don't give up on me. She's like, don't hang up. And Mayfair's like, I haven't given up on you. She's like, Reed would have never done something like this, like kind of be disubordinate and do something like this behind bosses' backs, and help Mayfair out. But the fact is it's because of Tasha. She's like, you're a good influence on him and stuff like that. So that was good. Because the thing is like, how do we help her or not? Because like in her situation, doing what she's doing, she's just going to get herself into more trouble. So we should kind of go get her and bring her back before she ends up diving deeper. But it's like they kind of decided against it and just 100% help her, I assume. But the other side of this episode kind of coincides. It's basically the new guy. There's essentially their boss, essentially, he came down, the director came and was basically saying that Mayfair was going to be replaced. Obviously, Kurt's kind of like temporarily filling the job occupation. But essentially he wanted to shut down the Jane Doe project specifically, I guess because he didn't know for sure, because he knew Mayfair had her secrets and this whole Jane Doe situation. Maybe he felt like they were connected, so basically it had to be investigated and vetted a little bit more, so they were shutting it down. Basically, there was the new case that was kind of brought to the FBI. It kind of dealt with one of Jane's tattoos. It's basically a baby that was left in a duffel bag, very similar to Jane, and just left to be found. And this baby has like a tattoo on his arm, and it's one just like on Jane's arm. But basically, they had to hide from the director what they were doing. So the team, Patterson, Tasha, Jane, Kurt, and Reed all kind of worked on this in secret. And turns out that basically this baby is genetically matched to a kind of a rich kid whose dad is an ex presidential candidate. And when they basically went to him, they ended up finding out that it's not actually his child or his wife's child. It's not like he was cheating, because basically he has a son who has leukemia, and basically it's like a full-time thing. Like he wouldn't have time to go off and have an affair or have a baby, because the baby was recently born. It was only like 20, like a full day old. So there was no time for him to go off and have an affair or something like that. And his wife definitely hadn't been pregnant. What they ended up finding out is basically, that basically the parents needed a cure for their son who has like I said, leukemia, and the only way to cure it is with a bone marrow transplant, but it had to be from a sibling or something. But they were afraid to have children because they didn't know if any of their other children would be in that situation too. The son, her husband, he had a brother that died from it, as well as her husband's dad had a brother as well die from it. So it's pretty common in their family. So that was kind of the fear. But basically they went through some very off the books genetics type of thing, and basically they were genetically going to make like organs and stuff like that. Get bone marrow for their son, but it's not just organs and stuff like that they were actually making babies, and that's where this baby came from. And basically the director found out about what they were doing kind of a little early on in the investigation, and basically kicked Jane out, saying like she can't be a part of this anymore. It's like because he was upset about them investigating. He's like, oh, you can investigate, but just leave like this ex-presidential candidate alone, as well as keep Jane out of this. Jane kind of went off on her own to handle this, because to her, she felt like her and the baby was in the exact same situation she was, not knowing who or where it is, and basically being left on its own like that. So she felt a need to save it, and ended up doing so. Like I said, it started off with like kind of like the nicest of, like, it wasn't like, because he specifically, like, the woman and her husband didn't know, like, they knew about the genetic, like, oh, like, they're make organs, but they didn't know they were gonna make full-grown babies, like, they're making people. Because she's like, what do you think would, have you ever, like, had your, like, kind of given up hope and then having it restored to you? Because that's what this was for them. It was hope for them again, but they had no idea about the whole baby situation. But what we end up finding out, there are a multitude of babies. So basically they got to check the DNA and find out, give these babies to those people, because they are their babies. It is their genetic makeup. Like for this specific baby is that lady's DNA and her husband. So it is theirs. Granted, they didn't give birth to it. It's kind of made. So I was kind of very interesting that we kind of entered in this somewhat science fictional / somewhat realistic nature of science fiction. So, which we had a very nice, once the case was settled, the director basically was like, he's proud of Kurt, because Kurt was kind of standing up to him, and he was just like, you're beyond reproach. Basically, he was like, we don't want to know the Mayfair situation. So you're the new head of the this specific unit of the FBI, but Jane still has to go. We're still shutting down the project. He's like, basically, you can do you can be in this position, or you can leave. That's all there is. Like, that's the only options you have. And it's just like, but all the good that they do with the Jane Doe project, and it's like, he's so quick to shut it down. But and Jane's a little upset about it. And then her and Kurt are talking a little bit, and then Kurt pulls her in, and they start making it. I'm like, yeah, you two get it. You deserve it. It's like, oh, it's just like, and what I like too is that Jane was like, she was like, actually pushing for it too. And I was like, wow, look at you. She kind of pulls back and then keeps diving. And I'm like, wow, that's, I don't know. It was kind of sweet and touch. It's like not one of those situations like they kissed like twice and then backed away and just like, whoa, I can't believe we just did that. It's like, no, they kissed multiple times. They went in like deep. I loved it. And Jane was a little happy and everything. And then, but she went off because everyone was about to go, party and because everyone was celebrating about everything. I mean, granted, Mayfair's situation is still the way it is, but still with the job, it was kind of a job well done. So everyone was celebrating Tasha, Patterson, and Reed, and she was about to come up, but then she was like, she kind of felt bad because she's like, after everything, the reason this whole thing happened in Mayfair, she was lying to her friends, the people who are like family to her, and at the same time, we had Kurt getting a call about his dad, like his dad reaching the end. And then we got the two big, heavy twist of the episode. Jane went off to meet with Oscar. She hears someone approach. She's like, Oscar. Bam. Nope, it's not Oscar. Freaking Mayfair. Mayfair's there like, what are you doing here, Jane? She's like, I'm sorry. She's like, oh my God. Mayfair's like, I can't believe you betrayed us this entire time. It's like, she's like, it's not like that. I had no idea. It's like, you set me up for murder. How could you do this to me? I trusted you and stuff like this. I'm like, oh crap, man, this isn't good. And then bam, Oscar shoots her. And I'm like, I kind of already knew someone was going to die this episode. I had a feeling it was going to be Mayfair. I felt like she was going to get too close and that was going to be what it is. And that's what happened. And then Jane is over there holding her down. It's like, what did you do? And he's like, I couldn't. And she's just like, get out of here. And she's talking to Mayfair, please, I'm sorry. And Mayfair's like, he's like, I'm not going to let you hurt my team. And she pulls out her gun. Jane knocks it away from her. It's like holding her gun. She's like, and Mayfair says the line, I'm sorry. I won't be there to see when Kurt, sees you for what you really are. And you see Jane just kind of shaken by it. And Mayfair dies. It's just like, oh. In that instant, her entire world was rocked. I guess there's no longer like playing the fences on this now because of that. That, as well as the other big reveal where his dad is talking to him and everything. He's sorry. Underneath the treehouse, I'm like, what is he talking about? She's under the treehouse. Like, no. And he's like, Taylor's there. He's like, I killed her. I was like, what? No way. Because he professed his innocence. He always kept professing his innocence. He even said, he made Kurt believe him. He made Kurt change his mind, being like, oh no, like I tried to kill myself. That's why, I wasn't around. Which he probably did. He probably did try to go kill himself after he killed Taylor because he was saying it was an accident. And it's just like, oh my God, if she's really dead, then that means Jane isn't really Taylor, which means also the organization lied to her. I don't know how to interpret that because if she isn't Jane, that means that, they lied to her because they told her that she was Jane. That she was a Taylor Shaw. And it's like, is she really? Maybe they were saying that because they're like, who Jane originally was like, it's the only way we're going to get her to trust you is by telling her, oh, this is who you are. But it's like, out of anyone, why would she pick Kurt Weller specifically if she wasn't Taylor Shaw? Because remember what they said, Orion. Was it that? Yeah, Orion is where she died originally. So Taylor probably did die, but they brought her back doing some most likely science fictional shit that and she became who she is now. And it's like when you look in retrospect, when you look at this whole plan, because it seems like they say it, everything was literally Jane's idea. This whole thing was her plan. So setting Mayfair up like that was her plan too. And it's just like, oh, who Jane originally was a cold-hearted person, and that's gotta be a little sad finding out that like all the stuff that's happening is because of you. But just those two revelations, dude, it's just like, oh my God. And next week is the season finale, and it's just like, it looks so amazing, and I cannot wait. Oh, so good, and just like I don't know where it's going to go. Is she Taylor? Is she not? Will Kurt find out how was this whole Mayfair situation turn out? Will they find out about Mayfair being dead? And it's so good, so good. And finally, moving on to this week's episode of Person of Interest, which it happened again. Is this going to be a permanent thing for the rest of this season? Like a Monday, Tuesday thing? I thought it was like, oh, maybe it's just a 1 week thing. It's like, no, it happened again this week. So, okay. But in this episode, it's a very Shaw heavy episode because we finally get to see Shaw after all this time. We saw bits and pieces of her like last season after she got kidnapped, but that's about it. We never saw her for like a long period of time. But essentially they're trying to put a chip inside of her to make her like, oh yeah, let's be all to get her as and turn her into a Samaritan agent. And you're talking about the fact is over the past 9 months she's killed 6 of my men, so we need to kind of get her under control. Because essentially they need her under their control so that they can, have her help them track down the machine. But basically, when it's all said and done, basically the chip doesn't work because basically the guy that's there is trying to make her using kind of images. He uses like, oh, this is the guy who pulled you out of the fire when your dad died in an accident. I mean, he died of like because he was sick. And here's your old partner when you were working with the CIA. He's dead. And here's all your friends, Root, Harold, as well as Reese, and yada yada yada, trying to use them. And then I love what Shaw says. She's like, the moment I get free from these restraints, the first thing I'm gonna do is make you bleed. It's like, ooh, you're such a badass, Shaw. And she ends up escaping because basically they want to set her up because obviously the chip's not working, so they're gonna have to try a second attempt. And when they do, before they're able to, she ends up breaking out. She does make that guy bleed. She ends up making him drink. I forgot what it was called, but basically it's just like, if you swallow this amount that's in your mouth right now, it's going to end up killing you because it's enough to make your heart stop. So, but ends up getting free and ends up at a store where she basically meets a guy named Bobby. I love her first interaction with Bobby because Bobby's like, oh, can I help you? And she's like, kind of essentially, I forgot what she said exactly, but kind of like, leave me alone, Millhouse. And I'm like, oh, that's so mean. He just sees this super hot lady in front of him that needs help, and he just wanted to help you, but you kind of shut him down really quickly like that. He's just out here looking for his Lisa. Haha, you see what I did there? Yeah, made the Simpsons come back full circle right there. I know, I'm pretty awesome, right? I know, ignore me. But I did like how she handled the situation. Basically, she couldn't trust herself to, go directly to her team. So basically she had to decide like, okay, what's the best way to draw them? Oh, basically use the numbers, get the machine's attention by using numbers. Basically called in a threat talking about she was going to kill Bobby. And Bobby's like, don't kill me. And she's like, stop wetting yourself. I'm not going to kill you. Basically, Samaritan's agent showed up. She was trying to take them out. But, a thing that happens to her periodically throughout the episode, she was kind of blacking out and like fuzzy. To me, I chopped that up to like, oh, like the chip is obviously trying to take control over it. It's like kind of trying to rewrite her mind, but it's like she's fighting it. And then who shows up? I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be John or something. It's like, of course, the first person that shows up is going to be Root. And they're helping her out. Obviously, they're not taking her back to the machine because Harold is a little reluctant because he's like, I don't really 100% know if Shaw is still 100% Shaw, not knowing what they did to her. And Shaw was kind of catches a little bit of an attitude, and she's like, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, here you are, Finch, not wanting to take action. Did you even try and find me? And it's kind of heartbreaking because he just kind of like looks down and looks away. He's like, I think we should leave, Mr. Reese. Because yes, Harold did at one point kind of like, he did go along with the other team, wanted to keep looking for her, but eventually he gave up because he honestly believed that she was dead. Root's the main one that was like, no, we can't give up. Shaw's definitely alive. We can't give up on her. I mean, mainly that's because out of anyone in the group, Root cares the most about it. Root doesn't just care for her. Root loves her, which is really sweet. Which I have to go back and rewatch those seasons and see, like, was that an obvious thing? To me, it didn't even cross my mind that was a thing until they kissed. Like, when she was in that shootout. Like, it didn't even cross my mind. I was like, oh yeah, wow, okay, I didn't even know there was a chemistry between you two. Like I said, maybe it's been a while, so I don't remember, but maybe Root kind of flirted with her from time to time, and I just kind of didn't take notice of it. I mean, that particular episode, Root was heavily flirting with her, obviously, but prior to that, I don't remember. But, it's just like, you can't blame Harold because he did try, and the moment Root kind of convinced him that Shaw was still alive, he put forth his efforts too. But, in his heart, he really thought she was gone, and it just, in all honesty, it kind of hurt too much to really want to believe because Finch kind of put them into a situation. He's like, they're all there to help him and the machine, and he kind of feels responsible. So he didn't want to keep looking for her because he honestly didn't know what he'd find, and he didn't want to end up finding her dead body or something like that because I don't think he'd be able to handle it. I mean, that's how I justify it. Granted, he shouldn't have given up on her, but in a situation like that when someone's been gone for so long, obviously I'm talking about another show, but it's kind of the whole Job situation all over again. It's like everyone kind of had their own shit to deal with. Some people kept going, obviously, but certain people just kind of give up because it's just like things are hectic in their own right, because it's like on top of looking for Shaw, they have to deal with this whole Samaritan situation. So it's not the type of situation where you can just be like devote all your time to one thing. It's like you have to keep your guard up, or you can get killed at any moment. But eventually, it led to a hot and heavy moments between Root and Shaw, and that took me by surprise. I was like, wow, this is getting like, obviously it didn't go too far because it is like, CBS, but it went farther than I thought it would for CBS. I'm like, that's a pretty steamy. I feel like I didn't know CBS would go that far. It's like they're knocking plates all over the place, taking a close up. I'm like, wow, they're really getting into it. I was like, wow, which is kind of like sweet and adorable because it's like a couple that hasn't seen each other in a long time. It's like, yeah, we haven't, we kissed, and that's as far as we took it. So it's time we take things further. It's time we put pedal to the metal. Like, that's just how I look at the situation. I just thought it was very interesting, and it's just like, and then basically the way Root was talking about all the scars on her back, like Shaw was talking about she said that the scars are from like back when she was working with the CIA, because Root was like, they put all those scars on my beautiful girl, and it's like, oh, look at it, that's so adorable. It's like, I'm gonna destroy Samaritan for doing this to my girl. It's like, my girl, look at you. Might come off sounding a little possessive, but I know the intention behind it. It's still sweet. But when everything is said and done, I wanted to talk about those specific things, but specifically, it was around this time that I was like, yeah, this isn't, like, what really set me off in this episode, because obviously everything ended up being fake. It was all in her head. Granted, the moment I figured it out was like, okay, let's go take down Samaritan. It's like, and we ended up getting, what's his name, Griffin, the guy who kind of the head of the whole organization, kind of the primary for Samaritan, just kind of like Root's kind of the voice for the machine. He's kind of the voice for Samaritan somewhat. Which, side note, whatever happened to that little kid? Remember, a little while back, there was was that last season? They met that little kid who was kind of he was more so the version of Root for Samaritan. He is to Samaritan what Root is for the machine, and it's just like, we haven't seen him pop up in any shape or form or heard anything from him, at least not that I know of. So, but still, old man, the moment they kidnapped him, I'm like, this is all inside her head, isn't it? It's like, there's no way in hell it's that easy to get access to him like that. It's like, oh, we're going to destroy Samaritan just like this, just because Shaw shows up, and it's like, oh yeah. To me, I thought the whole situation was one of two possibilities. Either the chip inside of her is making her go nuts, so she's literally running around town and it's all in her imagination. Basically, Samaritan, the whole organization is just letting her run wild, and she's playing out all these fantasies. Basically, she's thinking she's up here shooting bad people when she's actually not, or that basically she's still inside the facility that she was in, and she ended up basically imagining this, and that basically when it was all said and done, that she was going to find herself back there and realize everything was fake. I mean, when you look back on it, it's kind of like too much lined up perfectly with her. For example, the fact is there's a boat. You're literally on a secluded island, this whole facility was, and it's like you happen to come across a boat on that island. It's like, literally, really, what are the chances of that? So I should have known something was fishy there, but I didn't really think too much of it. But just the way the rest of the episode played out, the fact that she killed him, like, there's no way you want to kill, like, part of the main antagonist, because he kind of represents a part of Samaritan. It's like, there's no way you're going to kill him just like that, and it's just playing the fact it's like, oh, Shaw is actually been with us the entire time. Like, I didn't even buy into that, because the moment he was saying all that, I'm like, this is all inside your head. Like, that's why, like, when she ended up shooting Reese, I didn't feel anything, because it's like, it's not real. Though it's sad because all of it felt real to her. I did like what the conclusion came down to, because it was like she ended up going to what is that? Is it a carousel? What is that called? At a playground, a little spinning thing. You grab onto the bars and it spins around. Basically, that was somewhere important to her. It was connected to her memories. I forgot why that was important to her. But essentially, she went there with Root because after she shot John, she didn't kill him. I mean, she shot him and kind of left him for dead, essentially. Um, but essentially, she was there. She pointed the gun at Root. She's like, I don't know if I'm in control anymore. And basically, she was scared that basically she couldn't be trusted, essentially. Because she was constantly blacking out throughout the episode. Because I think I said this before. I essentially chopped it up to like, oh, like the chip is trying to rewire her brain to be more on Samaritan sides. I thought that's how I originally thought the episode was going to go, but it took all these weird turns. I'm like, okay, this is obviously all inside her head. And then she's like, I don't worry, Root. She's like, she brought up something that was really sweet. She was like, basically, because earlier she had said like, because Root had brought up like, how did you get through all what they did? Basically, she's like, the part of her training is to go to a good spot, like a good place, kind of your safe place, and you're escape into there and avoid all the pain or the torture, and because most of her torture was psychological, it wasn't physical, but she lied and told Root there wasn't one, but this time she told her the truth. She's like, what kept her guard up, what kept her strong is Root herself. And it's just like, oh, yo, yeah, you act so tough on the outside, but you're so soft and gooey on the inside. Sorry, I know that can be misinterpreted, but I meant that as like you're soft emotionally. It's like you kind of letting your guard down when it comes to Root, and it's just like I did not know you cared that deeply about her. Because to me, when it came to that situation, I thought it was kind of a one-sided situation. Like maybe she liked her, but then maybe she didn't care for her as much as Root cared. Root cared for Shaw more than Shaw cared for her, type of situation. But it's like that proves just how important Root is to her. And then Shaw shot herself, and I was like, okay, how is this whole situation going to? She's going to wake up back in the room. Obviously, she woke up, but not in the regard I thought. Like I said, I thought it was a chip. Nope. It was all part of a simulation kind of being streamed. That basically, and that's what the number of the episode comes from, because the moment the episode was ending, like, oh, this is simulation, I'm like, that's why this episode title is a number. This was simulation 6,741. And I did like the guy saying like, oh, she waited a whole hour later to shoot you, sir. And he's like, oh, that's very comforting. But basically they're trying to force her to lead them like through this simulation. They're trying to get her to basically lead them to where the machine is, because it's like, I was about to say like, but she doesn't know where the hideout is. It's like, stupid. Yes, she does. So, but there's a part of her that's not willing to give up, like willing to sacrifice Root, at least not yet. So, I mean, that's incredible. She's been run through that 6,741 times, and she's not, apparently, because it never crossed my mind until just now, but basically she has been under them for like 9 months, apparently, because it's like, oh, in the past 9 months she's killed 6 of my people, so that must mean at the very least she's been there 9 months. But in all that time they've run that many simulations and she hasn't broken. She's holding on strong, specifically for Root too. So that was kind of a beautiful thing. But it's just like, it's so sad. It's like, in this situation, you legitimately thought like Shaw was set free, and I knew it wasn't going to end well. I thought she'd be set free, but it wouldn't end well. It's like, nope, she's not even free at all. She's still in the same facility, being put through that, and it's just like, oh. I hope the others are able to get to her in time. It's like, because I mean, like I said, they are closing in. She did kill Reese, but she didn't get close. She didn't even come close to killing Root, because she'd rather kill herself than kill Root. So there's no telling how close they are to breaking her, because at the end of the episode we see them running simulation 6,742. So I really do hope they get to Shaw in time. So, but that's really all I wanted to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, though, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.